Yes. Hello and welcome back to the World Mental Health Forum Summit, this week of the International Week of Good Mental Health. My name is Jill Tiney. I am the founder of Collaboration Global, who are sponsoring this amazing event this week. And I'm so happy today to be with somebody who has inspired me in the past and will continue to do so, no doubt. Tana Macpherson-Smith is one of the connections I found through the wonderful LinkedIn, God bless it. And we've had many good conversations. So we invited her back to talk to the World Mental Health Forum Summit to share her wisdom to inspire other people as well. So welcome, Tana. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, see what we can explore and where we can get to.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about your story, how you got to be doing what you're doing today, basically. What was the without going into how many GCSEs you got and because some people go down that road, don't they? It's like, well, I left school at 18 and then I went, no, I don't really care about that bit. I just want the juicy bits in between that got you to this kind of
Okay.
revelation. Because you're a square peg in a square hole in a, as somebody would say, a lovely fur-lined rut. You're in the right place for, aren't you, for what you're doing in life?
Absolutely. But it's been a journey getting there.
Mm.
And it did start in school, but actually as a teacher, I was a teacher for 25 years and I loved that. The minute I fell into teaching, I felt like I'd come home.
Lovely.
But I was senior mistress, I was head of marketing, I ran a boarding house, I was teaching, a timetable, and I was on duty 7 days a week. And I had a lot of emotional things going on in the background. And I'd also buried all of my childhood emotion from what happened when I was, my mother became quadriplegic by the time I was 2, and she died when I was 7.
Gosh,
There was no therapy in those days, so there was no opportunity to talk about it.
no.
So I buried all of the grief, hid all how I felt. And I reached burnout in 2013 after I'd had major surgery unexpectedly.
Yeah.
And I was literally driving home one day, early in the morning, and an ambulance suddenly turned on its sirens and passed me at speed. And as if someone had put their finger on a switch, I put my foot on the accelerator, took myself up to 85, 90 miles an hour looking for a tree.
Oh, Tana.
And
Wow.
it wasn't about suicide at all. For me, the voice in my head said, if you're injured badly enough to be in intensive care,
Someone will
then
come
they
to
will
rescue you.
understand
Yeah.
will understand the damage they've done. And that related to a lot of people through my life and a lot of incidents.
Oh.
Um, the last thing I saw was a tree trunk in the middle of the windscreen. I went through the impact in slow motion,
Mm.
then came to, and I hadn't touched the tree at all. I mean, I'd literally gone through feeling my legs breaking and my head colliding with the steering wheel, but I was actually 200 meters down the road, having clearly spun the car, and all I could think of it was not my time. Because had
Yeah.
I hit the tree, because it literally was in the middle of the windscreen, it wouldn't have been intensive care, it would have been in a coffin.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
anyway, what resulted was my being taken to a psychiatric hospital, and I didn't stay the 3 days of assessment. I ended up being in there for 6 months.
Wow.
Missed my daughter's 18th, missed her A levels, just missed so much. Um, and that brought my teaching career to an abrupt end because I wasn't in a fit state to go back to that level of work again.
Mm.
And that
Mm.
broke my heart, impacted everybody in the family.
Mm.
But I met so many people in hospital. In 6 months, I met a lot of other people, from teenagers through to octogenarians.
Yeah.
I started pulling threads on everybody because I wanted to understand how so many ordinary people like me could um, have mental health problems
Mm.
that level. And I started pulling threads and realizing how much it went back to childhood. And yes, obviously there's people with major big T trauma that you could say no wonder, but what about everybody else? And I never saw my childhood as trauma. It
No,
was
it's funny, isn't it? It was your
just
childhood. Yeah.
but there's also people with the tiniest things that have happened, and I started realizing it goes back to childhood, it goes back to childhood. So when I left teaching, I realized that what I'm meant to be doing is finding a solution to this problem, doing what I can to reduce the numbers of people. And I have spent the last, since 2013, researching everything I can about the brain and mental health and who we are and what impacts children, and
Mm.
training in every therapy I can find because I want to know what they feel like and what they do because it's not one size fits all.
No.
And then I came to the conclusion that actually, if we really want to impact the future mental health of future generations, it's not by relying on therapy and medication, of which I've had masses. Yes, it's really important
Yeah.
and we haven't got enough, but actually, to turn the tide, we need to transform the life experiences of children, both in the womb and from the minute they're born. And that means changing what women experience while they're pregnant. And
Yes.
then it means helping teachers and parents and anybody who has anything to do with children in any capacity, bus drivers, shopkeepers, it doesn't matter,
Mm.
understand the very real impact of every single word that they have said to them or in their earshot that may not be about them, but they take it on board as themselves.
Mm.
So the jokey comments that we give, they are trying to understand why they didn't get 3%, why they missed, they got 97% and where was the other three?
Yeah.
Name calling in the playground.
Mm.
Teachers say that a child takes on board as a criticism of them when in fact they're just giving someone else encouragement. All of these things create the layers that put pebbles in the path towards us thriving or potentially having mental health problems.
Yeah.
And since I've started working with that, I have managed to bring around real transformation with children. So I launched my company Clear Minds Education in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And I go into schools across the country as a speaker. I do inset training, I do parent workshops, and I do motivational speaking and workshops for children from 5 upwards.
Mm.
And I work individually with children, teenagers, and those in their 20s.
Mm.
And just have found how one can turn the mindset around and how one can pull threads on what's lying inside, get people to get a grip on that, and then use their imagination as the most powerful tool to lift themselves out. And that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years,
Yeah.
is helping people to transform their lives, really.
I think so many people, myself included, that don't appreciate, as you said it earlier, what you thought was just a childhood, was a traumatic childhood. And so many people go through traumatic things. And, that was yesterday. Today's a different day. I'm going to move on. And you push it down and you bury it. And
Mm.
as you say, things that you are told by the adults around you and the children around you have an impact. It's like you say, pebbles and pebbles and pebbles. And eventually, you're going to crack and you're going to break and you're going to find that you can't keep piling on all the baggage that we carry with us.
Yeah.
It is not, you can't do it forever. It's going to come a point when you need to break. And imagine a child having a wonderful childhood, but still learning the tools that if they get into pickle as a teenager or in their 20s or 30s or 50s, you might have had a blessed life, but there are still things that can trip us up.
Yeah.
Everyone is taught those tools, like you're going into school and teaching young people these different things, then we have access to be more in control of our minds and our hearts and where our lives are going. Because I don't
Yeah.
know about you, but when I was younger, I would quite happily work with people that I didn't like that much or didn't feel right. And quite recently, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that anymore because it pulls me down. It disturbs my sleep. It puts me off my food. I don't want to be in that position anymore. And it's making those choices around your health, your holistic health,
Mm.
that makes all the difference. Before we came on air, like we do, we had always chatting, and you were telling me this lovely story about a lady who was struggling with her mental health, and you were able to support her and help her. Would you like to just share that again with us? Because I thought that was just
Yeah.
amazing.
It's a woman that I've known for quite a long time who's had the most trauma that I've come across really since her birth, almost all the way through her life. And she's incredibly positive and upbeat and is an absolute gift to so many people. But she's been having psychotherapy for well over 20 years, and doesn't feel that anything's better. She just stays where she is. At least it's not got worse, but she stayed where she is. But over the last 18 months, things deteriorated a lot. And I hadn't seen her for a while. And I saw her 2 months ago and couldn't believe the shell of this woman who had become completely agoraphobic. So she was someone who used to spend her entire summer in the garden. She couldn't even spend more than 10 minutes in the garden without having major panic attacks. She hadn't been out of her front door for a year. She couldn't go to the shops. She literally was a prisoner in her own home, and her mental health had deteriorated so far that she was a real concern. she has a child who lives abroad in the Far East, and a newborn grandchild and a 4-year-old that she's never met. She's never seen them. And her son sent her flights to go and visit in the hope that maybe that would do enough. And she just wept with me and said, I can't even get to the front door. How can I get on a long haul flight to Thailand?
Mm.
Um, and I said, the thing is, nobody else can do this work, but I can give you some tools. And you have to commit to doing it morning, noon, and night
Mm.
because you're not getting out, you're not doing anything else. Use the time to really work on yourself. And I said, this is where imagination becomes the most important tool. And this is the key with children and teenagers. It works brilliantly, is to really engage with your imagination as if you already are in the position and have the confidence to do what you want to do. So I explained this to her and I said, I want you to imagine the minute you wake up, and especially before you go to sleep at night, so it's in your deep subconscious overnight, having breakfast with the family, the joy of being on a flight, have fun talking to everybody, how exciting that's going to be, the things you're going to do in Thailand, what you're going to do with your grandchildren, the excitement. I said the most important thing is to actually flood your body. It's not just what's in here. You
Mm.
have to flood your body with those feelings
Mm.
and really feel excitement. So we talked about times in the past when she had felt real joy, real excitement, real vibration of just everything going right,
Yeah.
so that she could identify that. Anyway, I left her to it, and she said, "No, you've given me something to really work with, something practical." 5 weeks later, I get a call from her, just going, "Oh my God, oh my God." She said, "I can't tell you. I've got to tell you, literally, the shift this week has been so huge."
Wow.
She said, Not only do I feel I might be able to get to the airport, I actually am finding who I am." She said, "I realized I haven't known who I am for 25."
Oh, bless her.
And she said, "This is really working. I've done it literally every day. I've heard everything you said. I've put it into practice. I'm doing it," she said, "and I'm beginning to see this as a possibility." So we
Mm.
talked through some more. We did some more work. She carried on. A week later, I get a photograph from her sent on my phone, and she's on that flight, long haul to Thailand, having got herself to the airport, managed to get her through
Wow.
freaking out. She extended her stay in Thailand. She's now going back in December, and I saw her last week. I've got goosebumps actually.
Yeah, I'm like that.
And was such an extraordinary journey and spiritual turnaround for her once she got there, with the things that she did.
Mm.
And literally 2 months earlier, none of it would have been a possibility. And I did the same with a 16-year-old girl who had wet the bed her whole life,
Oh,
become very depressed because
yeah.
all of her friends were having sleepovers. She wouldn't go to them. They thought she was really boring. So they were beginning to drop off their friendship. And she became very isolated, very bright girl,
Mm.
beautiful girl inside and out, very depressed, very anxious. And I gave her exactly the same tools. And I said, I want you to imagine that you never wet the bed again as if it's today. How
Mm.
would you feel? Give me three emotions. And she said, ecstatic, proud, and free.
Oh,
So we created a sentence around that. And I asked her to write it 25 times every morning, the minute she woke up, and every night just before she went to sleep. But not just like, I'm so ecstatic I don't wet the bed. I'm totally proud and free, like while she's thinking about breakfast and homework, and really engage
yeah.
excitement. So we talked about when she had felt pure joy and really excited in her life. So she knew what that feeling was. And I said, flood your body with it as you're writing it. So you're totally engaged in
Mm.
envisaging you are completely released from this prison.
Mm.
And 4 weeks later, she got in touch. She'd stopped wetting the bed and she's never wet the bed since. Now, she'd been in and out of one of the major children's hospitals for 12 years.
Oh, wow.
And she did that in 4 weeks. And that's really fundamentally what I use with everybody. And it's what I've used with myself I had cancer in 2016. The treatment I had about my mental health in hospital, the rest of it was amazing, but my mental health was completely disregarded and I couldn't even get my medication.
Wow.
And that really triggered a long time belief of being invisible, that no one would listen, no
Yeah.
one would give me my meds, nobody would take any notice. And I had a massive relapse. And here I am today in the best state that I've ever been, using this work, doing all of this. And it's incredibly powerful. And I just believe if we taught children from nursery to use the imagination and step into their power, and I can,
Mm.
I can read whatever I want. I can do my sums. I am awesome. I am truly awesome.
Yeah.
We engage them with that.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
see a much better long-term mental health.
Absolutely. It is incredible. And you know what's really interesting is that you can give people these tools, and even if they don't believe in what you've told them this will work, or you give them all the wonderful stories, just by doing it, even if they promise to do it morning, noon, and night, and you can imagine day one, day two, day three, oh, what's the point? It's not going to change anything. But carrying on, carrying on, carrying on. And eventually you start to notice that there is a difference. I'm currently doing, which is not a dissimilar thing, working with how your brain works. And I fully believe that your body can heal itself, whatever ills you've
Yeah.
got. But one of the members of Collaboration Global, Jennifer Reef, is a tapping specialist,
Yep.
and she helps people to tap all the acupuncture points. And I've been ill up and down for a couple of years, more down than up. Just tiny little things like, oh, I've got a cold, or oh, I've got an allergy, or oh, I've got an eye infection that made my whole side of my face swell up, and oh, I've got the flu. And it was like constant, something was wrong with me all the time. And I was just, oh, everyone was like, how are you feeling? And it was that kind of, oh, you okay? And I'm like, I'm ill again. I don't understand it. So Jennifer said, just tap yourself better. What? Oh yeah, you can do it. Okay. So she told me, and she challenged me as well, bless her. Do it for a month and
Yep.
then see. And I'm doing it for a month. So I'm like 2 weeks in. And this is the first 2 weeks I've had clear of anything since January, I think. It's
Yep.
crazy. I've had something else going on all the time. And even it's like the deafness that I've had seems to have gone away. The tinnitus that I've had seems to have gone away. It's bit by bit by bit. And I'm like, well, if I'm doing this for a month and I'm still healthy, why would I ever stop?
Yes. Yes.
You would carry on, wouldn't you? If it's
Yes.
to build up your immune system that was messed about in COVID, that's when it all went wrong. I went years and years of not being ill. And then all of a sudden, COVID comes along and your immune system is shot to pieces because we all stay indoors. And the immune system goes, oh, I don't have to do anything anymore. And then we start going out again. It's like, whoa, and it can't cope. And I think that's where it all started from. So it wasn't like a poor me, I've got a problem, I've got the sniffles. It was just ongoing poor immunity.
Yeah.
And it's just so wonderful when people that don't believe, I'm not saying I didn't believe, but I hadn't tried it. I was aware of it, but I hadn't tried it. But when you can say to somebody, just do it,
Yeah.
just don't worry. Don't worry about if it's going to work or not. Don't worry. Just create this feeling. Use your imagination. And exactly what you say, imagination. Whenever I've been in business and I've wanted to do something ridiculously big, like write a book, or have an audience of 500, or do a TED talk, or whatever it is, if I can see it in my mind's eye, I can imagine from the getting on the stage or the being at the book launch or whatever it is, if I can see all of those things and who's there and what I said and what she said and what they said and what I was wearing, and I know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I know it's going to happen because I've created that picture in my mind. If I'm into something, I'm like, yeah, let's do that. And I'm like, I can't see it. I can't, no matter how hard I try, I can't create that in my mind's eye. Funny enough, never happens.
Yeah.
Strange that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I totally agree with where you're going with this wonderful journey that you've been on. How you coped working 7 days a week at school and just labeling the things that you were doing that you loved. I'm surprised you didn't burn out much sooner because it sounds exhausting.
But we do that, don't you? If you love something, you push yourself, and then you've got family, and so well, what choice have I got? This is my job. This
Yeah.
is the work that I do, and I like you. I used to have visions about what I wanted to do to enhance the lives of the pupils, to give them forums to be able to step out of who they were and into
Mm-hmm.
their own light, and then to be seen by other people, because so many of us are not seen,
Yes.
live a life of invisibility. And so I'd wake up in the morning with a whole new creation, like a major fashion show with leading designers around the world contributing, or
Wow.
doing a trilogy of plays that we took to the Fringe with a teenage cast, all around the impact of acquired brain injury on teenagers and children,
Wow.
with a night in the West End. And every time I came, I'd wait. My husband would go, "Not another one."
Yeah.
Yeah. And I knew I would make it happen, even though
Mm.
never had any experience. So teaching children to do this from the youngest age,
Wow. Yeah.
envisage their success and their ability, it makes so much difference and
Mm.
helps them to shed. You talked about we carry this baggage. I describe it as having a chrysalis outer armor that's got darts in it with all the words. Every time you've been called fat or nerd or put down or it's
Yeah.
not good enough, or you feel you haven't met your parents' expectations or whatever it might be, they're stuck on the outside. And we carry that from primary years into secondary.
Mm.
What I say that we have a monkey on our shoulder, and the monkey looks at what you're wearing and carrying and
Mhm.
does everything it can to protect you from experiencing those things again.
Mm.
So, a child that's been bullied in primary school, the monkey's basically got a couple of options. One of them is to make them grow their hair long across their face and put them in baggy clothes and retreat into themselves in the hope that, God forbid, nobody's going to see them to pick them out and bully them. Or it might say, right, we're going to build you up, we're going to make you fit, we're going to face the world with anger, and we're going to make you the bully. And the
Mm.
monkey directing everything that we're doing.
Mm.
And once kids and teenagers and adults are introduced to the fact we have a monkey on our shoulder, like mine that told me to drive into a tree at 90 miles an hour because it was fed up of nobody knowing the pain that I had experienced through my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
It's very powerful, but once you start learning, you can understand it's something else outside of yourself that's causing these problems. It's not your weakness, it's not your fault. And you can create a relationship with the monkey and mute the monkey.
Mm.
And you can start making decisions and choices for yourself.
Mm.
Not one that's governed by years of whatever you experienced in childhood, a lot of which you won't remember in your head at all. It's deeply rooted and written in the tapestry of who you are in your subconscious.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you find that forgiveness comes into play in these stories?
Very much. And I've had to do a lot of forgiving, and it's not always easy. But the latest forgiveness for me was I discovered that I have ADHD only about 16 months ago.
Wow. This
And
is,
the realization, I've been working with it with all my clients for years and helping them,
and you
but
hadn't cottoned on.
I hadn't cottoned on. And then suddenly, when I started looking into it in women and things, I thought, this literally is me.
Gosh.
Every detail is me. And also understanding where my ADHD came from, where I've been hypervigilant, I've been revving my whole life.
Right.
Always like my insides are like this all the time.
Wow.
And I've always thought I blamed myself for being weak and pathetic, having anxiety. I
Gosh.
now understand exactly why I have ADHD because I've done years of study on retained primitive reflexes, and it's another massive area of my work.
Mm.
Also, my mum was 14 weeks pregnant with me when she was told she'd acquired an autoimmune disease that was going to render her completely paralyzed, and it was terminal.
Oh my goodness.
And she had two toddlers and a baby on the way. So she went straight into fight or flight, absolutely terrified for the future and angry and desperate.
Mm.
I bathed for 6 months in her adrenaline.
Mm.
My whole nervous system is wired to rev the whole time. I'm constantly in fight or flight because I lived in fight or flight
Yes.
development.
You grew.
So understanding that, I was able to literally look at myself and go, you're not weak and pathetic for having anxiety or for having ADHD or anything else.
Mm.
It's just a part of literally part of your tapestry and who you are.
Mm.
Total forgiveness for all the things that I thought I'd been unable to handle just because I was stupid.
Mm.
And it makes such a difference to understand none of it is about being weak and pathetic. It's about deeply embedded experiences, whether that's through the womb or through birth or through childhood, that trigger responses in you
Mm.
that are meant to protect you and keep you safe, but are sometimes rather misguided and misjudged by the monkey on the shoulder and
Mm.
sends it in different directions. So I wrote a book called There's a Monkey on Your Shoulder, which I published in November. And it's for teenagers, but interestingly, it is being as widely read by adults,
Yeah.
including whole groups of like 70 to 90-year-olds.
Wonderful.
They're saying it's making sense of their lives because no
Yeah.
one talked about emotions when they were teenagers.
No,
And
no,
it's just
sure.
helping them understand what they went through. So
Mm.
there's so much we can take responsibility for ourselves.
I think we are coming to this age of awakening as opposed to being woke, this age of awakening where we are learning more and more and more about good mental health, but also every aspect of our being, our physical, our emotional, our spiritual, and it's just like realizing that they're all connected, and that then connects us to other people, and whether it was our parents that had an influence over us or people that we grew up with, it might not even have been siblings, it might have, wherever you happen to have grown up, or people in your school have all had an impact on you. And it's understanding how you can kind of take off that jacket of like, well, that was then and this is now. What jacket am I going to wear now? Who am I going to be? Who am
Yeah.
I being at this moment? And seeing that this is from now on, I can do this. You can choose how you're going to be. Your trauma doesn't create your future you. It was then. And isn't there something I read somewhere a long time ago that your every single cell in your body renews every 2 years or something.
Mhm.
So the person that had the trauma is not the person that's sitting there now. So
Yeah.
you can literally let go of that in order to move forward. And even if you're not aware of trauma, but you seem to be, as you say, fizzing inside all the time, there might be a reason for it. You don't necessarily need to know the reason for it. It's just like, this is who I am, and this is how I'm going to make this my bonus, my magic, my genius within me, that utilize it to help other people. That's exactly what you've done. If you've written the book, now other people are reading stuff and go, oh yeah, that was me. Oh, I was like that. That was, and it's making sense. I think there's pieces of a jigsaw, putting them together.
That's exactly it.
It's beautiful, isn't it? When it all comes together and it's like, oh, get it now.
Yeah.
That's why I was dot, whatever it is. It's amazing. Um, Tana, if you were to have one wish in the world, like you haven't got a magic lamp, you can't rub it 3 times, it's just the one wish. What would that wish be for our planet?
Honestly, it would about transforming the lives of children. It would be about everybody understanding the implications of every single thing we say and do to and around children. And I'm not talking about being brutal and abuse and things. Of
Mm,
course, eliminate that. I'm talking about every day, every person. A child gets on a bus, the child goes to buy sweets, they're in the street, they pass by somebody. It doesn't matter. All of us have an
mm,
impact in a way that none of us recognize the depth of the impact of everything that we say and do around them. And I think if that's literally everything that I'm about. I feel as though everything I've gone through in my life is about me doing this work
mm,
to help people to understand. Because if we change that, then the mental health of future adult generations would be so much better. And we wouldn't have to spend so much on medication and therapy and all those things. And it's
mm.
changing and recognizing the real influence that every single one of us has, whatever age we are, on children. That's what I would change.
Yeah, wow, that's a good one. That's I've heard several over the course of these interviews, but that kind of blows my mind of the potential that that would create going forward. We don't cherish our children enough, I don't think. It's all very well to cherish your own, but when it's somebody else's kids, it's like, oh, look at them. You want, why aren't they being quiet in this restaurant? And yet, if you were to say something to them, it's going to have an impact on them in some way, shape, or form.
Throwaway lines. I had a girl in here who's got a really close relationship with her mother. She's 15. She arrived raging,
Mm.
and in floods of tears. And because she'd lost her temper in the car, she'd sworn. Her mum had said to her, if Nanny G heard you speak like that, she'd turn in her grave.
Oh
And it
no.
wasn't that her mum, it was the fact that her mum had brought up the grandmother who died
God.
when she was 9, and she was there all the time, and then she just wasn't. Who to know
Oh.
that?
Mm.
And would say this quite often. And she said every time she does it, when we talked it through, it's like mum was pulling all the scabs of her death off her or
Oh.
stabbing her several times because it just reopened the wound that she kept trying to bury about the loss of this person in her life.
Yeah.
So I had to bring mum in and have an honest conversation. And her reaction was exactly as I thought it. Oh, I didn't mean anything by it. It was
No,
just
of course not.
run away. And I said, that's the point.
Yeah.
You've said this dozens of times, and each time you do, you're stabbing her and you're picking off the wounds, the scabs.
And at the same time, that mum has probably had no one to talk to about the loss of her mum. and all the scabs that she's had as a child from that mum. And maybe they never had that conversation about, I love you, don't you? So many people don't. I had that conversation when I was about 28. I had a daughter of my own. I just had my first baby. And I said to my mum and dad, do you realize we don't actually say, as a family, nobody has ever said, I love you. My dad was horrified and he was like, but we love you, right? I said, yeah, I know. It was a loving family. I said, but nobody's ever said it. And he
No.
went, oh, I love you, kid. And every time after that, he said it. My mum never ever did.
Yeah.
Just wasn't in her makeup. But that hurt. And it is so there has to be empathy and compassion for her mum as well. So the daughter has to see that your mum's just lost her mum.
And
That's
that's where the
really hard.
conversation went, and the healing was immense, and the
Mm.
new understanding. But sometimes it does take someone else to point out that
Yes,
the
because
simplest comments. A dad telling a 5-year-old, the kid had come home really excited, he got 10 out of 10 for spellings, and dad went 10 out of 10. Why not 11?
ah,
Absolutely
funny.
crushing for that child who was so thrilled. Still, it wasn't good enough. And those tiny throwaway comments can build this need for perfectionism, which drives in a way that can lead to all sorts of problems.
Mm.
And yet, you think it's such a simple comment, but you might say it, someone else might say it, or you say, "Oh, that's a beautiful picture, but have you seen what your sister did?"
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
comparison and that's just about raising awareness,
yeah.
people to
I,
understand.
well, I have three grandchildren, 3-year-old, 1-year-old, and a nearly 1-year-old. And so now I'm going to be thinking very carefully about what I say to them. I mean, I thought carefully anyway, but even more so now.
Mm.
Um, it's fascinating subject. Tana, thank you so much for this time together. It's been absolutely precious.
Oh,
I
very good.
love your special wish, and I thank you for looking after the next generation
Thank
and
you.
supporting them, and just giving us food for thought. No matter where you are, listening to this interview, no matter what situation you are in, there are ways to help you. If that lady can be stuck in her house for a year and then within just a few short months be able to get on a plane to a different country on her own as well, I think that's amazing. That would be tough for me to get on a plane to go halfway around the world, let alone somebody that's not stepped outside the front door. You are a miracle worker, my love. Thank you for that. If somebody wanted to get hold of you and get in touch with you, what's the easiest way for them to get hold of you?
I think to look at my website's tanamacpherson.com, and there's a contact page there and all my contact details. So email me, pick up the phone, any way you wish.
Lovely.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.